Have you ever had that moment when you're looking at an old painting and suddenly realize it could have been painted yesterday? That's exactly what happens when people encounter The Irritating Gentleman, a masterpiece from 1864 that feels eerily relevant to our modern world. Created by German artist Berthold Woltze, this painting has become more than just another piece of 19th century artwork hanging in a museum. It's sparked conversations, inspired memes, and become a powerful symbol of something many people, especially women, experience daily. What makes this particular painting so special? Why does it continue to resonate with viewers over 150 years after it was created? Let's dive into this fascinating piece of art that seems to bridge the gap between past and present in ways its creator could never have imagined. When we look at The Irritating Gentleman, every detail tells part of the story. Woltze was incredibly deliberate in how he arranged this scene, and his choices make the painting's message impossible to ignore. Let's break down what we're seeing, because the genius is truly in the details. The main focus is on two figures, our young woman in mourning and the titular irritating gentleman. The woman sits alone on her wooden bench, surrounded by her belongings. A bulging travel bag decorated with a rose, a maroon coin purse, and a white handkerchief. She's dressed entirely in black, from her gloves to her cloak, marking her as someone in mourning. This wasn't just a fashion choice. In Victorian times, strict mourning dress codes were observed, and her attire tells us she's recently lost someone dear to her. Then there's our gentleman, though he's proving himself anything but. He's leaning over the wooden partition of his seat, invading the space behind him to get closer to the young woman. His posture is aggressive, his smile self-satisfied. He's well-dressed, sporting a bow tie, glasses, and a fashionable hat, with a cigarette in hand, all markers of wealth and social status in his time. But Woltze gives his face an almost caricature-like quality, highlighting the ugliness of his behavior through his expression. What's particularly brilliant about the composition is how Woltze uses the train carriage setting to create a sense of claustrophobia. The woman is essentially trapped. She can't easily leave her seat without pushing past the man, and the moving train means she can't simply step off. The wooden benches and confined space of the carriage create literal barriers around her, emphasizing her uncomfortable situation. There's also a third figure in the painting, an elderly man sharing the seat with our irritating gentleman. His reaction, or rather lack thereof, adds another layer to the story. He's looking away, either out of discomfort or disinterest, representing the all-too-common response of bystanders who witness harassment but choose not to intervene. But perhaps the most powerful element of the composition is the young woman's gaze. She's looking directly out of the painting, making eye contact with us, the viewers. A single tear rolls down her cheek, but her expression remains composed, dignified even in her distress. This direct gaze serves as a silent appeal to the viewer, pulling us into the scene and making us implicit in what's unfolding. We're not just observers anymore, we're witnesses being asked to acknowledge what's happening. To truly understand the power of The Irritating Gentleman, we need to step back into the world of 1864 when this painting was created. This was the height of the Victorian era, a time of strict social codes and proper behavior, at least in theory. The reality, as Woltze's painting suggests, was often quite different. During this period, women's mobility was increasing thanks to innovations like the railway, which allowed them to travel independently in ways that would have been impossible just a few decades earlier. However, this new freedom came with its own set of challenges. Public spaces, like train carriages, became places where women might find themselves in uncomfortable or even dangerous situations, especially when traveling alone. The social codes of the time made these situations particularly difficult to navigate. Women were expected to be polite and accommodating, even in the face of unwanted attention. Speaking up or making a scene would have been seen as unladylike behavior, potentially damaging a woman's reputation. This created a perfect environment for men like our irritating gentleman to exploit social conventions for their own purposes. The detail of the young woman's mourning dress adds another layer of historical context. Victorian mourning customs were extremely strict, particularly for women. Full mourning dress, as worn by the young woman in the painting, typically indicated a recent loss of a close family member, possibly a parent or spouse. During this period of mourning, women were considered particularly vulnerable and were supposed to be treated with extra consideration and respect. The man's behavior, therefore, isn't just annoying. It's a serious breach of social etiquette and basic human decency. Woltze was part of the German school of realism, a movement that rejected the idealized scenes favored by romantic artists, in favor of depicting everyday life in all its uncomfortable truth. By choosing to paint this scene, he was making a bold statement about the realities of women's experiences in public spaces. The fact that he titled it The Irritating Gentleman suggests a critique of men who use their social position to harass women under the guise of gentlemanly behavior. What's truly remarkable about The Irritating Gentleman is how perfectly it translates to modern experiences. The painting has found new life in the digital age, becoming a powerful symbol in discussions about harassment and unwanted attention. Spend any time on social media, and you might see it shared alongside stories of similar modern encounters or referenced in discussions about women's experiences in public spaces. The parallels are striking. The self-satisfied smile of the gentleman might remind us of the modern mansplainer, holding forth about his extensive knowledge of obscure films or music. The woman's resigned expression mirrors countless photos and memes of women enduring unwanted attention at bars, clubs, or on public transportation. Even the bystander's averted gaze feels familiar. How many of us have witnessed similar situations and looked away, unsure whether to or how to intervene? What makes the painting particularly relevant today is its subtle portrayal of power dynamics. The gentleman isn't using force or even obviously threatening behavior. He's exploiting social conventions and the woman's limited ability to escape the situation. This kind of subtle harassment, where the perpetrator can always claim they were just being friendly or making conversation, remains a common experience. The painting captures something that many women have struggled to articulate: the way that seemingly polite attention can feel threatening or violating when it disregards clear signals of disinterest or distress. But now I'm curious to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation like the one in this painting? Or maybe you've been the bystander, unsure of how to help. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive into art and social commentary interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. That way, you won't miss our upcoming videos exploring more fascinating connections between historical art and modern life.